Darth Vader number 3. In this issue, we have an appearance of a character that I hope is going to be in a live action show soon. This is the first appearance of Dr. Aphra. The variant cover to this comic book is spectacular. A lot of times we want to sympathize with Darth Vader and assume that he has good intentions deep down. And in this picture, it almost looks like he's trying to help out. But as we learn further along in the story, he wants something from Dr. Aphra. It's not just about helping somebody, but if you see that chip in her hand, that plays a major part in this story. This first scene, we see Dr. Aphra staring down a hallway into a vault. We don't know what she's after at the moment, but she's clearly after something. And it looks clear. There's nothing in front of her. All she could do is just walk right down to this safe. But this is not her first rodeo. She has done this before. So what she does is she's looking for lasers. So she pulls out a bag, and it appears that she's blowing dust out of her hand, but it's not actually dust. What she does blow in the air was a handful of these micro droids designed specifically to catch the light of these detection lasers. And if you guys remember the Catherine Zeta-Jones movie, she slinks through these lasers just like Catherine Zeta-Jones. She ends up getting to the vault. And inside the vault, she finds a microchip. And she is super excited about finding this chip. The microchip that she was looking for is a personality matrix that she needs to insert to one of her droids. The droid is 000. And we'll meet him later on in this issue, but after she extracts the microchip, she then tries to slink back through all of these lasers. And she's very careful and she's doing a good job, and then all of a sudden, bam, the alarms go off. After setting off the alarm, she is in a frantic run to get away. There are lasers shooting at her, there's something exploding behind her, but she is hightailing it out of there as absolute fast as possible. She's going down the hallway and she's getting out of the situation when she hears something behind her shoulder. What Dr. Aphra sees whenever she looks back is a giant droid chasing after her. In a very Raiders of the Lost Ark type of scene, she is now running from this droid in this sphere, and there is a door getting ready to close in front of her. And just like Indiana Jones, she dives to get through it in the nick of time. After diving through the door, Aphra is lying there with a smug look on her face, unaware of what's going on around her. At the same time, she is surrounded by a museum curator who says her name and says that she can be a very troublesome woman. After looking up, Aphra realizes this is somebody she knows. This is curator Utani Zane. Now, you can tell that they know each other by their banter that they have back and forth. She's not surprised he works there, and he's not surprised that it was her setting off the alarms. He tells her there's a reason why the 000 matrix has been quarantined for centuries, and she says it's his fault, and it's people with small minds like him, that chip should be in an armory and not just in a museum or a storage unit. One of the droids makes curator Utani Zane aware that there's an incoming TIE fighter. After Darth Vader makes his grand entrance, Utani Zane starts protesting to Darth Vader, saying that this is a quarantine world, and he starts talking about treaties. Well, Vader simply says, enough. True to form, Darth Vader wastes no time after what he wants. He force pushes the drones out of the way. Seeing this, Utani Zane is pleading with Vader to please stop. Utani Zane's droids open fire on Darth Vader. Immediately, he starts to deflect all of their blasters with his lightsaber, and once he is in range, he then attacks them and slices them up. Amid the chaos, Aphra sees her chance to get the chip back. She ends up knocking over Yutani Zahn, and he loses the microchip, and she screams at him, "Give me that." In the scuffle, the chip ends up falling over the ledge of a giant drop-off, very reminiscent of every Star Wars movie ever. Do you think that they could ever come up with a better use of space in these spaceships? So Dr. Aphra dives over the ledge, and she's dangling there. And Vader sees this. He walks over to her, just stabbing the curator in the back. He could care less about the curator. He stares down at Dr. Aphra, and he says, "Dr. Aphra, I have need of you." In the next panel, they're aboard a ship. Dr. Aphra welcomes him to the Archangel, which is obviously her ship. She's not sure what he even wants, and she says, "How can I help you?" Vader's there. He wants private business, he tells her. He had destroyed some of the droids that she had reactivated, and the way they fought had impressed him. She goes on, she's not sure what to call him. She's calling him Mr. Lord Vader and "Thank you, sir. Thank you, your majesty, your illustriousness." She has no idea what to call him, which makes for a little bit of a comedy scene here. It makes her appear human. She says she has no idea what he wants from her because she's not a droid, she's an archaeologist. And what she was trying to do with getting that matrix, that chip, was to use it for a protocol droid. It dawns on Aphra to ask how Vader found her. And in each of these panels, you can see Vader torturing or maiming somebody somehow in order to get the information. Eventually, Aphra just kind of says she really doesn't want to know anyhow. Aphra begins to tell Darth Vader what that matrix was that she was after. It was a 000 protocol personality matrix. It did come with a few bugs and some twitchy coupling. It had neurocybernetic glitches, tendency to drain organics to collect their blood. That type of thing, she tells him. But what it does do is it speaks languages that no one else does, and that is what she needs it for. But there is a problem, okay? Its code is locked. And Aphra, it's going to take her a couple hours to break in, using code to unlock it. And so, in that meantime, Vader can tell her what he needs her to help for. Well, Vader walks up to the computer, to the keyboard, starts typing in a few digits, a few codes, and bam, it's unlocked. And she's shocked. She says, "You didn't have the codes. How did you do that?" She's just curious and shocked that he had done this. Aphra's impressed. She tells Vader that he's even more interesting than she could have hoped for. And again, she's calling him these names. She's calling him Sir Vader. Darth Vader just responds, "Lord Vader, continue." He's very short with it. Well, Aphra gets back to what she's doing. She says, "Just give me a second to get this installed." She's concentrating on figuring out exactly what she needs to do. And then, bam, presto. The droid wakes up. And droid just says a simple hello to everybody. The droid wakes up. He tells him his name is 000. Now, 000 is a protocol droid like C-3PO in Star Wars. He has specialized in etiquette, customs, translation, and torture. And he tells them that he's pleased to meet them. Aphra says, "Override imprint master." She does not want him to call her master anymore. They have code names, Aphra and Vader. Well, 000 decides that he better not shake their hands in because it may route a fatal shock through his palm. He says old habits die hard and all that. And in his experience, those old habits certainly die harder than most organics. And since there's no one there to murder, he asks, "How may I be of assistance?" This is the page where we learn what Aphra's plan was with getting that matrix chip. And she needed that matrix chip to wake up this astromech looking type of droid. Vader says all this work just to wake up this astromech, and Aphra goes on to explain it's actually a blastomech, and its name is BT-1. What it is it's a assassin droid that's entirely homicidal. What it did before she found it is it wiped out its entire base. It was an experimental base called a Tarkin Initiative, and it blew up the entire base and jettisoned itself out in outer space. Well, Aphra ended up recovering BT-1. She fitted it with some stronger behavioral inhibitors, but the problem is the core identity only speaks the research and development language of that Tarkin Initiative base. Well, that language disappeared whenever it blew up the base. But that 000 matrix that she installed in the protocol droid came from that exact same base, so it knows the language. Well, 000 says that's a wonderful plan because he knows that language. And Aphra sets him off to wake up BT-1. And he speaks the language, and BT-1 wakes up. Immediately, BT-1 pulls out a bunch of weapons and faces them at Vader and Aphra. Darth Vader immediately pulls out his lightsaber and is prepared to defend himself and attack. 000 ends up jumping in front and says, "You can't do that. These are our masters." And just to let you know that these droids are just a little bit off, 000 says to him, "Also, who would clean up the mess?" Aphra is just absolutely mentally drained by the day's events and just slinks up against the wall, saying it's just another activation survived. You can tell that her nerves have had it for the day. And then she starts just yammering on and on to Darth Vader, saying, this just must be a quiet day for him, meeting her, and then he has to jettison off and go get back to his schedule of putting a jackboot to the throat of all the rebels. And Darth Vader, by this point, he gets to the point. I kind of like Vader in the fact that he doesn't waste oxygen talking. And he says, "Aphra, you're overly fond of speaking." And she just starts yammering on again with her nervous talk. And she even tells him that she's nervous. And what she does is she activates these murder droids for a living. And she's more nervous by Vader. And what she's truly nervous about is she doesn't know what he wants. And Vader starts telling her there was a time that he had his own armies at his beck and call with the Empire. But by this time, this is right after the first Death Star was blown up, and he lost favor with the Emperor. So he is now in need of his own private army, and so that is where Aphra is coming in. Aphra starts to get up, and she starts telling Vader that the droids that she just activated were going to an organization that had another mission lined up for him, but then she stops herself mid-thought. And she says, "But you're my next mission, aren't you? And the next after that." Aphra knows that Vader is going to want her, and she's now basically in his service, and she knows it's not just for one mission. It's going to be for a long time. And she tells him, you have been what I have been looking for all my life. And so she walks away saying, "These are yours. What else do you need?" And you can tell just by her mannerisms that she's really not happy about this, but she's resigned. She knows that it's her ultimate faith. And Vader tells her that he needs troops of unquestioning loyalty. And as she's typing in this computer screen, she gets it. She's "Hey, I understand. Who wouldn't want a phalanx of carefully restored battle droids?" She tells him that she knows where to find a unusual droid factory, that the organization that hired her to get 000 and BT-1, they're also watching that base. But it's being guarded by Imperials and some not-so-friendly locals. And she asks him, "Hey, how do you feel about a mission to Geonosis?" And Vader, as normal, just stares at her. And he says, "I have no feelings regarding that place." And Aphra, you can tell by now that she has no affect in her face or in her voice. She says, "Good, we need to move." And she knows that she can't let Vader down. And Vader just quietly says to her, "Wise, Aphra, that would be a mistake." And that is Darth Vader issue number 3. Hey, thanks for listening to this. This was the first one that I've done. I plan on doing some more of these in the future. And, well, what I just did right there, I feel that I say the word "and" a lot as I tell a story. I will work on that going forward. But again, thank you guys.